I have an infestation of Benchmade Bugouts in my collection. It is quite possible that you are shopping for a pricey knife for the first time in your knife collecting career. So heed this warning. Be careful with a bug out. If you see one in your house, there soon will be dozens running around. If you don't believe me, let's count how many bug outs I have on the bench now. Then let's count them at the end of the video. A very brief history of Benchmade Bugout. This is the second model of it that came out. The first one had plain edge, and you can get them, I think you can still get them with a partially serrated edge, but in all other respects, it's exactly as the original Bugout model. And the reason I don't show you the actual original model is because in my collection turned into this. I put copper handle or copper scales, as knife people call them, on this knife to sort of make it feel more premium and a lot heavier in my hand. And that's the cool thing about Benchmade Bugout. There are tons of aftermarket components that will allow you to customize your knife. So here it is again, a basic bug out. And from the moment they came out, they were in S30V steel, and the basic model still is. While the steel has been around for a while now, it is still considered to be a premium knife blade steel. Advantages of having S30V steel, it's a stainless steel. When we say stainless, it doesn't mean corrosion free. Every steel can corrode, absolutely every single steel can accumulate surface oxidation if exposed to harsh conditions. But this particular steel has a pretty good corrosion resistance, and with minimal maintenance, it will remain stain-free. It is also well-hardenable steel. Typical hardness for S30V can go between 59 and 63 HRC. And so let's go ahead and find out if they hit that target. What you see on the screen is the Rockwell tester. That's an industry standard tool for determining the hardness of a blade. And I have a lot of videos on my channel where I measure the hardness of many blades and explain how it all works. But today, I'm just going to show you the result, which is 59.4 HRC. And that's the thing about Benchmade. They stay on a very cautious or conservative side of heat treat. There are other steels that bugouts are produced in, but the one theme is in common: they're all stainless. And the reason for that is bugout was from the get-go designed as a backpacker's knife, meaning a knife that's meant to be in the elements. The construction of the knife is inexpensive. It has S30V blade, it has molded handles made out of FRN, sometimes Giver, and some versions have more sort of robust materials, but let's get this out of the way. If you compress the scale, it will flex, and it will flex a lot, and it spooks a lot of people. Should you be worried about it? No, because this material is a fiber impregnated nylon, which is a very, very resilient material, meaning that it does not bend out of shape or crack very easily. And the important part to that is it acts the same whether it's minus 40 centigrade outside or plus 125. It will not lose its resilience at this temperature range because the material itself was developed for military applications. The popularity of a bugout drove so many other companies to actually design an alternative that would attract the same group of buyers to their product as it does for the bug. And I'll let you know toward the end of the video if they succeeded or not. Bugout has something that's called an axis lock. By axis, not the axis. If I mispronounce it, I'm sorry. It's axis, as in a line that goes through the knife. I don't know if it's a good name for a locking system, but here it is. And the way it works, you pull back on these two tabs. They're symmetrically located around the blade. You get your fingers out of the path of the blade like so, and then you can just drop shot the knife into closed position. And they are also all equipped with the thumb studs, which are located on the blade, and they allow you to quickly deploy this blade with one thumb or reverse flick it like so with your index or middle fingers. The last piece to the bug out story that without getting too deep into the weeds, is all these knives are made in the US, manufactured in Oregon. That's where the headquarters are. The founder of the company was Les D. Aces, and he was famous for breaking into the American market with a well-designed, well-executed premium balisongs. When his business took off, because his balis were high-end for the time, he ventured into other types of knives. Things do change. Unfortunately, Les has passed away, and his son has been supposedly running the company. Currently, they're the second largest producer of bladed items in the United States, number one being Leatherman. Needless to say, many companies came after this niche, and because of competition, some of the products are incredible. And that's what I am going to focus on today. American brands that are trying to carve out a slice of bugouts territory. But the beneficiary of all that is the consumer, because now we have excellent choices in that area. Let me tell you which conditions were set to be selected for this video.
1. It has to be an American-made knife. 2. It should not be priced more than the bugout, at least not by much.
Number 3, it has to be lightweight, geared toward outdoors enthusiasts, and it had to come from a reputable company that has the same level of warranty and support as does Benchmade. Oh yeah, and all these knives had to have an axis lock. I'm showing you this knife, which is not part of the video today. This is the first model ever made with this axis lock. It's called Benchmade 710 McHenry and Williams. They designed this lock, and then Mr. DeAces has purchased the rights to produce it. And for 17 years, since 1999, this lock was guarded better than the Fort Knox. Benchmade would go after anyone who tried to replicate it in any shape or form. The patent has expired in 2017, and the reason there are so many of these, what we now call crossbar locks, in the market is because McHenry and Williams came up with probably the safest way to operate the blade with your fingers out of the way. And you can see that for a blade this size, it becomes critical because it just drops shot, and if your fingers were in the way, that would really hurt. And they're not, by the way, in order of preference. They all are equal. I just want you to know what the alternatives are.
The first knife I'd like to present to you as an alternative to the bugout is this recently released Buck 791 range. It is available in FRN handles and 154 cm steel. This version has aluminum handles and MagnaCut blade. I recently reviewed this knife and I was quite impressed by it, and you will have a glimpse of some of this in a minute, but I will also provide the link to this video. So the price of this knife in FRN 154 cm version is about $20 less than that of the basic bugout. In aluminum and MagnaCut, as you see here, they're about $30 more, but you get a huge break on the value of the knife. And let me show them side by side. As you can see, the knives are very comparable. We'll get into some more details in a minute.
So next knife is made by Hogue. Hogue manufactures a lot of knives under their own name and for other brands. Huge amount of experience, and the plastic they use, or fiber impregnated polymer they use, is actually the same as they use on the pistol frames, or more specifically for SIG M17 and M18, the current military sidearm in the United States. Next knife comes from a brand that needs no introduction because you can find it everywhere, even at Walmart. Not this knife. To the best of my knowledge, Walmart has not laid their paws on this particular model. This is Kershaw Bel Air.
And last but not least, I'm going to present to you Spyderco Manix 2 Lightweight Salt. This knife is also made out of molded plastic, but the blade is MagnaCut and it's optimized for weight and corrosion resistance. Oh, technically it's not a crossbar lock because it has a bearing ball serving as a locking device versus the crossbar, but it operates very similarly to the Bugout.
Let's weigh the knives. I'll start with the Bugout and then go in random order, and I'm going to do ounces first and then grams for each knife. So we got 1.9 ounce for the Bugout, 53 grams. And for this blade, the hardness is 59.1. For this steel S30V, it is kind of on the low end. Cabela, 2.6 ounces, 74 grams. This clip point style uncoated blade version of Cabela came out in 2025, and it has a few advantages over the original version, hardness being one of them, 63.5 HRC. Here's the original PVD coated stone-washed version of Belair, and because of being coated, a process that requires heat application, it actually ends up being a whole point lower at 62.4 HRC. Another MagnaCut blade, Hogue Deca, 2.1 ounces, 60 grams. Out of the two blade styles in which Hogue Deca is available, I prefer clip point to the modified sheep's foot, because this blade geometry combined with an excellent heat treat makes it a lot more forgiving when you are using the blade not as intended. 63.8 HRC is the top of the ideal range for MagnaCut.
Buck range 790 weighs 1.9 ounces, and its slightly larger companion 781 Range Pro weighs 2.2 ounces, 53 grams, and the larger one is about 65 grams. One important thing to know about Buck's heat treatment, they develop their own processes and they optimize them for edge retention and toughness. They call it BOS or BOSS heat treat. This blade is 61 HRC. Manix 2 lightweight is a little bit on the heavier side at 2.8, 2.9 ounces, and it's 81 gram. I tested 5 Spartacus Salt MagnaCut blades in this video that you see on your screen. It's a great video for you to watch at your leisure. For now, I'm eager to jump into talking about what makes these alternative blades great options for you to consider in lieu of the Bugout. Starting with Cabela, and I'm talking specifically about this clip point bladed version for a couple of reasons. The original Belair has this Warncliffe sheep's foot shaped blade, which is not particularly robust at the tip. In one of my videos or one of my tests, I was actually bending the tip and it's permanently deformed. It's varies so slightly, but it is deformed. Another difference is this runs on a very inexpensive single row bearings, whereas when they released this version, they upgraded it to a multi-row bearing. And in the video about this knife, I go through a very detailed explanation on why is it important. I also like my Carter. As you can see, this is the only knife right now in the selection that has something better than Gervery or FRN handles. My Carter feels very good, very warm in hand. It patinas with you. You can always clean it off if you don't like the individualized patinaed look to it. And the one advantage of my Carter, when your hand is wet, if you're using your knife in a bad weather, it becomes actually grippier by absorbing just a slight amount of water and basically facilitates a better gription from your hand. This one, kind of the same story. I highly recommend clip point. You see the theme. Clip point blades, both of these, have this extra ridge here, which creates more rigidity. Even though material is removed on the spine, that extra ridge creates more rigidity in the blade, similarly to the construction helmet having a rib in the middle of your nugget. So that's why I like them. And of course, if you don't recall, there's a very old video where I actually broke the tip off of the Tanto, or was it modified sheepsfoot blade. The advantage over the Bugout is the price. These knives came out at $139 a few years back, 2.5 years ago, and they're still under $150, where they offer you actually very similar experience to the Bugout. Also like the pocket clip and the level of detail around the thumb studs and on the crossbar itself. It just feels just a little bit more premium and looks fantastic, in my humble opinion. Again, your taste could be different than mine. Spyderco Manix 2 Lightweight is a large knife. Even though it doesn't offer much more of a blade length, it offers something none of these knives have, is this immense finger choil that allows you to choke up and actually bear down during very hard cuts without risking cutting your finger. It's also even safer in closing, because should your finger happen to be here when you're closing the knife, the finger choil will hit it rather than the blade itself. And I really like the fact that it doesn't have the thumb studs, so when you're sharpening it on the fixed angle sharpening system or even on a flat stone, nothing gets in the way of your stone pass. These three knives have MagnaCut blades. I'm not going to jump and say it's a more premium steel than S30V. S30V will have better edge retention than MagnaCut. However, it's a more balanced steel. It definitely will have more toughness or resilience to the flexural loads, meaning loads in this direction. And overall, I think if you haven't experienced MagnaCut yet, you have to pay a lot more money to get a Benchmade in that steel. And finally, we get to my new favorite. This is the 790 range from Buck. Just like you, I'm not very much enamored with a large billboard style advertisement here. Plenty to see on the pocket clip. I actually like the little inconspicuous anvil here for the Buck, which is actually symbolizes how the original Buck blades were hand forged in the basement of a church during World War II. Here's your BOS heat treat, and this steel is definitely an interesting alternative to S30V. This is 154 cm, so it's not a powdered steel, but it's an extremely well suitable steel for a knife blade. It was not designed as such, but in the late 80s, early 90s, it was discovered by famed designer Bob Lum as a great alternative to other knife steels, to 440 and 420. That's what they had back then. So much so that American industry ran out of 154 cm, and a couple Japanese companies had to step in and make alternative steels. Now, if you were to splurge extra $30-some for a MagnaCut version of the range, whether it's larger or smaller of the two, I believe this one came out at $219 for this version, and the basic version with FRN and 154 cm steel was like in the 160 price range. So still $20 under the Bugout. And as you can see, it offers slightly more blade length, maybe. Nope, they're about the same. So great alternative. The only thing about the MagnaCut version, it has aluminum handles. In the Benchmade world, if you add aluminum to any Benchmade model, it's going to cost you $100, $150 more. All of these knives come with a much better edge. I showed it in numerous videos. Benchmade, for the life of them, can no longer produce a decent edge. These edges are rough. They leave a lot of burr, or worse, they strop it without weakening the burr. There are videos about what that all means. I'm not going to dive too much into the weeds. And I also want you to know, and this knowledge came to me through friends in the industry, the cost of this knife is 40% of what the retail price is. So if Benchmade sold this knife for $72, they would still be able to pay their workers, and for the materials, they just wouldn't make much in the way of a profit. How do I know? Employees that work for large retailers that sell Benchmade, they're entitled to purchase 2 Benchmades per year at 60% off of their MSRP. So while you are paying $180, an employee will pay $72 for this knife. You might be wondering how Benchmade gets away with these ridiculous prices. It's a very simple explanation. Most people that are not knife enthusiasts, their introduction to the premium knives is through shops like Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop, which is now the same company, where you go in and there are knives, but then there's a whole case dedicated to Benchmade only. These stores don't carry Spydercos. Even Spyderco has a much better range of offerings for any kind of situation, whether it's hunting, survival, or adventuring. They sell out of Kersh's. They do offer this model, but they sell out so quickly that people just don't get to know them. And I don't think they carry Hogue Deca. I'm not sure if they carry Hogue. Hopefully, they will carry the Buck. But again, when you walk into that store, here's a case, beautiful case with Benchmade. Sometimes it's a stand-up case like this, and it gives an impression of getting something extra special. I'll assure you, all these knives that you saw today in no way are less special than Benchmade. And I'm not saying Benchmade isn't special. It's a great knife. It still makes a great gift for somebody. It definitely has more name recognition than any other American brand, except maybe for the Buck. But Buck is known as an inexpensive Walmart knife, and so is Kershaw. Yet within those brands, there are more premium knives that actually will outperform the Bugout or any other Benchmade for that matter, and still offer you a great value. All that said, remember I asked you to count my Bugout collection in the beginning of the video. I don't know if you did or didn't. You should have counted 12 right there. But guess what happened? While I was filming this video, another one showed up in my house. Here it is, number 13. This is Bass Pro Shop, speaking of, exclusive from 2021. And one of the Bass Pro Shops still had them. Had to have it.